Hey, welcome back. I'm in the process of trying to capture my videos on the channel called Who is Who in Hoaxology. I want the world to see the lies and the liars, and that basically speaking, anything put in front of your eyes is a lie, a hoax, by hoaxers, liars, Satanists. So we're going to begin with someone that I had about 40 years of watching and faith in. Billy Graham. Billy Graham is a hoaxer and a liar. Sorry for all of you who believe in him. I did for, I'm going to estimate, about 40 years. So when I do these videos, please know that I accepted the lies and the liars, and I went with them. But I now know better. So I'm not in the hoax lie system anymore. Anyhow, we will find out. Billy Graham was an actor, just like all the other famous people in history. Phony history, fake history, manipulated history. And this one in particular, who was always around presidents, and who always had tremendous television coverage and newspaper coverage. Well, Billy Graham is just a faker like all the others. Sorry to say.
Who are these people? Who are the ones that are in positions of government, education, medicine, and even religion? Well, I'm about to attempt to show you someone here. But in order to do so, we're going back to the 1950s. Longines chronoscope aired 1951, 1952, 1953. Somewhere in that era. It was on for about 15 minutes. And it was an attempt to introduce to the viewing public various significant leaders. And in this particular interview, it will be with Robert Moses, who is a well-known city planner. But it's not Robert Moses that we're interested in. I'll explain to you in just a minute. Now I put it in a not super fast speed, but faster than normal, so that when you hear the person speaking, they will be a little bit speaking in hyperspeed.
It's time for the launching process. The television channel of the presentation of the art, brought to you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. The presentation of the launching with Norwalk, maker of Launching, the world's most powerful, and with Nor, distinguished companion to the world honored launching. Good evening, this is Frank Knight. May I introduce our co-editors for this edition of the launching concert, Mr. William Bradford, noted author and actor, and Mr. Hardy Burt.
Mr. Hardy Burt of Longines Chronoscope is none other than,
Well, you look at him, you might actually see him. Is Billy Graham. That's right. I said Billy Graham.
Third hand correspondent. Our distinguished guest for this evening is Mr. Robert Moses, the nation's foremost city planner.
Of course, we've had many years of experience in New York.
Now, Billy Graham, or Hardy Burt, is rather not extremely quiet, but more quiet than the other interviewer. And by the way, these are called co-editors. Okay? And this is your main guest, Robert Moses. And this is Hardy Burt, the one I'm saying plays Billy Graham.
City and state, as a planner of parkways and housing, I'm sure that our viewers tonight would like to hear you talk about some of the public planning problems, in particular traffic and housing and parkways. Now, sir, how does the nation stand as regards road building? Are we falling behind on roads, or are we keeping up?
Oh, we're behind. We've been falling behind steadily for years, and now the situation is more or less desperate. The fact is that unless we begin to, unless we launch a new program, a much larger program, we're going to face a situation where we can't accommodate the output of cars.
Is some of that due to the Second World War, sir, and to the money spent there?
Stoppage of, almost complete stoppage of road building during the Second World War, but it's been steady. We've been falling behind steadily.
When you say the situation is desperate now, sir, could you estimate for our viewers how much money it would take to spend the entire nation, state, citizens, country? How do we take
$55 billion. But that isn't the figure. Those aren't figures taken out of the air. They represent the adding up the programs of the several states as approved by the federal government.
How far is New York State, for instance, the one that you were particularly concerned with?
Well, our program involves an expenditure of about $3 billion, close to $3 billion and a half dollars.
Well, how long do you think it will take before we do have a lottery roast?
That's Billy Graham. Okay, I'm going to try to zero in on him and enlarge him a little bit. Now, one of the things that I often notice that many people don't notice and they don't care too much about is hair patterns. And I know it sounds a little silly, but I've got a photo here of Billy Graham from his book, Just As I Am, and I've noticed the pattern on the forehead up here is basically identical. Okay, so I'm going to attempt to put that photo next to him. And then I'm going to attempt to allow you to see that pattern, and I'll try to show it to you again a couple times. So I apologize that it's not the best, and my ways are not perfect, and my ways are not always extremely in line with modern technology, but I'll try to stop it every now and then and let you see that hair pattern is pretty much basically the same. I'm talking about the hairline and the scalp and where the hair meets the forehead, etc. So we'll get back to the interview, and I'll pause it every now and then. Now you're looking at Billy Graham right there. This would be in the 50s. Billy Graham appears on the scene late 40s, and he's puffed by the newspaper editor Hearst. Hearst says, "Puff Graham." In other words, I can make this happen. And Graham will become a celebrity within a matter of a year or two. And that's mostly through the efforts of the newspapers and magazines.
So the President of the United States, is he going to have to get somewhere?
Well, do you mean how long would it take if we had enough money? I suppose that we could catch up within a period of 8 to 12 years, not less than 8 years, because there's a limit to the amount of construction you can do in 1 year without simply stopping the wheels from moving at all.
Well, since that's a video car, what's the wheels are going pieces faster than the wheels can be built? Is there a limited less savings?
No, I wouldn't say that. Well, I would say that if we spend somewhere between $45 and $55 million in a period of 8 to 12 years, it's done intelligently out of federal supervision, that we'd be in pretty good shape, assuming that the output of cars remain just about what it is today.
You think that's not much money to spend?
Okay, once again, back to the hair pattern. I'll try it again to show you. I'm even try another different photo too. I'll show you Pick Try It too. That's one of my big things. Now zero in on the photo. You can see how there's like a curvature here, curves, and that curvature matches right here. Right here. So if you wait a minute, let me try another photo. And if you hang in there with me, I really want you to know I appreciate it, because I'm not an expert. I like making videos. I'm just thrilled if one person is thrilled with me and appreciates my work. I'm just thrilled. Well, I'll tell you what, we'll hold off on that for just a moment. Oh, here it is. Sorry, I couldn't find it. It's Billy Graham with Dr. Martin Luther King, who, by the way, is Sidney Poitier, in case you didn't know that. Dr. Martin Luther King, Sidney Poitier. He's an actor too. They're all actors. All right, I'm going to continue on with this and then get to some more evidence, because you're probably not too excited about hairlines and foreheads and stuff like that. So we'll go on with this a little bit more.
Let's see how we can escape them.
Actually, one of the ways we try to relieve this problem, of course, sir, is through building these great toll roads in the country, like the New York Thruway. Now, to illustrate for us some of the problems with using New York Thruway as an example, how much will that road cost, sir?
I think it will cost somewhere in the neighborhood of $750 million.
And how is that financed? Is that
That is financed by the issuance of bonds, which, however, have the state credit back of up to $500 million. Beyond that, they won't get state credit back of the bonds.
So now, are these toll roads paying off? Are they, the people who invest the money get it back?
Actually, they're paying better than most people expect.
Well, I think we'll be able to do this highways and parkways because
Okay, once again, the interviewer there, Hardy Burt, is Billy Graham.
rate of accident will get higher than all the roads.
No, the rate of accident is higher where the speed limit hasn't been held down to proper limits. And of course, there are other factors such as climate and fog and snow and all that sort of thing. But the people who built the original expressway, such as the Pennsylvania Turnpike, announced that there would be no speed limit. And then the accidents were simply terrific, and then they put a speed limit on that was too high. And gradually, that's why we brought down some kind of reasonable limits.
Of course, to build these roads, you have to move a lot of people's homes, don't you, sir?
Yes, especially in urban communities, in urban and suburban communities. That is one of the big
Can you
problems.
give us any indication of how many homes would have to be moved to build New York Thruway?
Well, New York Thruway, I would say 3/4 of it is in open territory where there's no problem. The other 1/4, I wouldn't know how many. But in New York City, on the approaches to the thruway system, there are really two thruways. One goes up to Buffalo out west, and one goes from New England, goes east to Westchester, Fairfield County, Connecticut. I would say that there are about, on those two approaches, about 10,000 people.
On road question, sir, can you tell us who, of course, our national authority?
Okay, I want to use this right here to show you the interviewer, Hardy Burt, is rather tall and slender. You can see that. He's slouched over a little bit, but when he gets upright a little more, he's a lot taller than the other co-editor.
What state has been most progressive in planning new highways?
You can see there's a little bit of height difference there. Billy Graham's always been a little bit tall and slender.
Well, it'd be hard to say. I would put California way up on the top of the list.
We're going to go down to the next category, since you've had so much experience, sir. The building of parks. How does that country compare with other countries in the world in building city parks?
Well, I think that most of the country we want, and I would not include South America in this particular discussion, inherited parks which were originally big states, and they have very fine large parks, but inadequate playgrounds.
Yes, Robert Moses,
local parks,
the city planner, supposedly comes to stack.
In terms of what, then?
Likes to talk with his hands. Billy Graham will develop a lot of hand movements and hand gestures in his career in preaching.
Well, we can recognize the number of people that can be accommodated.
Could you give us some of those figures as far as New York City is concerned? And since how parks have been developed, how many do you have now and how many do you have 10 years ago?
Well, I'd rather take a little bit longer period, but in the time since I've been connected with the city park department, I think we have about between 4 and 5 times as many recreation facilities as we did, say, 19 or 20 years ago.
And you're thinking about parks, sir, and said that we're the population of old people.
I'm going to turn the sound off and talk a little bit as the interview goes on. Now, this would be like a training ground for Billy Graham. So many of the television evangelists actually are in the entertainment field or the news field. So, for example, Tony Evans is just the old Richard Pryor. And the game show host, I forget his name, but anyhow, Richard Pryor. That's Tony Evans, all right? And then you have many others, and I've exposed many others. But all the ones on television that get all the views for their sermons and their services are basically just actors. They either come out of like the news world or the comedy world or game show world. Now, while he's doing this, he's also going out conducting crusades. And the crusades will get lots of help by the media, because the media is 100% controlled by the Kabbalists. I also believe that for a lot of the Billy Graham crusades, the order goes out into the community to all the Mason lodges, probably within maybe 150 miles before the crusade is done. And then those Masons show up along with their family and friends. And hence, Billy Graham has always drawn a crowd. This might be a good place to reinsert another photograph of Billy Graham and put it right next to that. Back to the photograph with one that we know is Dr. Martin Luther King. He's really just Sidney Poitier. Just trying to get you some light there, and that's probably not doing a very good job. So I'm not sure what kind of light you got with this. So I'm just trying to put this photo next to it, just to give you some idea of what just ordinary photos look like next to what you're seeing now. Hang on there. And you realize this is rather crude, but I don't mind if you don't mind. And anybody that wants to click off and click on some other video, go right ahead. I'm well aware of all you folks that can't stand anything past 5 minutes, and that you can't stand anything short of perfection. So it's okay by me. If you want to click on, click off, and click out. Boy, here's one now. Oh, wow. You'll be glad you waited for this one. As we explore together, trying to get this set up so you can see the patterns here. This is pretty good. Pretty good. In fact, it's almost perfect. Almost perfect. I say almost, I mean almost. I don't mean it is perfect, I just mean it's almost perfect. Just trying to get you in touch with hair patterns. And I know they're not a perfect way of doing things, but I'll tell you what, I found them to be very, very helpful. Now look here how this is like this here, almost cut with a number 7, and maybe that is intentional. And then right here, same thing. Then a little bit of a ridge out, a little bit of ridge over, and down. The hair pattern is almost perfect as far as matching. Okay, the Billy Graham photo on the right, Billy Graham in latter years, and the photo of Hardy Burt on the left from the Longines chronoscope hour, 1950s, early 1950s. So what I'm going to do, now I'm going to go to one more thing, and if you've been hanging in there with me, I do want to thank you, as I do realize that what I do is not perfect and could be a little bit irritating for people, to say the least. So let's go to the picture. Now, what you're looking at is the picture when I attempted to put in the photo of Hardy Burt. The picture will give me the statistic on the match, but it will not allow the photo to go in and be visible. Very, very interesting. So on the left is Billy Graham. On the right, where you see the 0 with the dash in it, that is where I have the photo of Hardy Burt, and I'll show you that photo. Looking for it. There it is in the corner. Right there in the corner. I can only find one to download. Okay, so that's the photo I put in the picture, which gave these results. And notice, it would not allow the photo to come up. Now that's interesting. And I do think that that actually occurs when you really hit a big bonanza, or you've scored big time, okay? Okay, so that photo went in here of Hardy Burt, and that photo matches Billy Graham 52%, right? So I had someone ask me, how much of a match do you need on pick, try, if in order to show it? Is 50% good enough? And I said, yeah, basically yes. Because there's a lot of prosthetics that are used and so forth. Sometimes the angle that it's taken, sometimes the age, sometimes the style of hair, etc. Anything like up in the 75% is really remarkable. And I've had some of them go up as high as 90%, and those are like ding, 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 ding. But 50% gives you a pretty good indication that, yeah, you're looking at the same individual. Now, is it perfect? No. Is what I just did perfect? No. Will I ever be able to bring anything to you that's perfect? No. Do I do my best to try to show you what I see? Yes. Do I give you results that I think are fairly accurate? Yes. Am I hungering and thirsting after truth? Yes. Do I realize that all the world around us is phony? Yes. Is there anyone else out there that's also on the same page, in a sense, trying to tell you that the world around you is phony? Yes. How many? Very few. Very few. And I want to be one of the few that are trying to tell you you've been hoaxed, you've been lied to. Now, what can you do about it? Basically, seek out truth, love truth, live for truth, and share truth. It will put you in a very small little group of people. And that is why I appreciate you very much. That is why I love to go to my comment section and see one little comment thanking me or giving me an observation or concurring or even possibly saying, well, I don't think you're completely right on this. That's okay. I'm just glad you're out there, my friend. So I'd like to end this video, once again, always point you to the true Jesus, because Billy Graham preached another Jesus, a false Jesus. Love the true Jesus. He is the way, the truth, and the life. End of video. Ronald Reagan, 40th President of the United States, 1981 to 1989. In front of you is kind of a scrapbook that I made of pictures and photographs and etchings and things like that from books and magazines about the presidents. And so we're going to talk a little bit about Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan was female. All presidents of the United States were female. That is correct. I did not make a mistake. I told you the truth. So we're going to look at Ronald Reagan, just a few things, and hopefully that will give you some evidence to believe my statement. First of all, just notice that he has a rather short neck in this nice, colorful portrait you're currently looking at. So we're going to go down a little bit here to his wives, plural, because in hoax history he was married twice. Okay, the first time the marriage is to a Jane Wyman, W-Y-M-A-N. Why a man? Why man? Jane. It has the man in the actual name. Then later he will marry Nancy Davis. Now, I'm not certain of this, but if you'd like to check it out, please do so, and maybe I will check it out later. But it appears to me that Jane Wyman and Nancy Davis are actually the same individual, the same actor. Again, I'm not certain of that statement, but it looks to me like that could be true. Okay, so let's go to the strongest piece of evidence I want to use in this video. I have to go to my flip chart. Okay, we're going to take a look at this piece of evidence, and this just shows Ronald Reagan in the 1950s at his home resort in a swimming pool. So what we're going to do is we're going to hone in on the chest region. Now, I'm certainly not an expert on female breasts, okay? But on what little experiences I have, it appears to me these are definitely female breasts that have been reduced. Notice how they start up here and they're real kind of flabby and almost like a balloon. It's blown up. Men's breasts aren't that way. They're a little more firmer and not pudging down like this, like it's a balloon. But you can see in the breast area that they are female breasts that have been surgically reduced. If I get too close with my camera, it kind of blurs a lot. But that's probably the best I can do there. So while we're in the upper region, let's go up to the head. And in particular, the hair. Now, I'm not going to do any like proving the hair is female hair. I want you to see the numbers. That's correct, I said numbers. I hope you can see them. I know the camera blurs a little bit when you get a little too magnified, so I'll try to bring it right to the point. On this side is the number 1. On this side is the number 2. So you can reverse them 2, switch with the 1 is 21, which is your satanic number, or your blackjack, your 3 sevens, or we could do it this way. Your 1 is the presentation of the starry, presentation of the character called Ronald Reagan. The 2 is your interest in buying into it, okay? And then once you're hooked or sold on it, that's the 3. The 1 plus the 2 equals 3. Now you're a complete believer in this hoaxer called Ronald Reagan. Now probably if you ask folks, middle-aged or better, who do you think was really a super president? A lot of folks would probably say Ronald Reagan. Some of the reason for that is he had tremendous experience in acting, or she had. Let me stay with my thesis here. Okay, so now we're going to do another thing here. We're going to go down to the hands. Now I'm not sure how this is coming out on camera, but take a look at the hands. What goes on there? Okay? It's just to let you know that these individuals that are so-called leaders are sort of like Greco-Roman gods. They are to have features like the ancient gods of Rome and ancient gods of Greece. What goes on there? Now notice the background is brick. Anytime there's brick, that's a pretty strong indication it's a Masonic hoax. Now I want to take you down to the feet. Oh wow, before we get there, the rib section, it looks like a rib or 2 has been removed. And it almost looks as if they doctored the photo and just took out a bunch of flesh there. Doesn't really actually even look real. So they're trying to hide the fact that Ronald Reagan would have had hips as a woman, and they probably doctored the photograph to make it look straight up and down. Now we go to the feet, and the feet are not enormous. They're rather petite, rather small, and that seems to be an indication too. And notice how the shadows showing you the light and the dark, kind of like a half man, half woman, half light, half darkness. And that's always what the dualism is about, and the occult is about, the dualism. And I'm not too sure, but perhaps there's something in this pattern here. I imagine it's supposed to be water splashed, but this may indicate something here, this pattern. Notice how with the so-called shadow, it appears like his foot is actually extended, and it's a black foot, or almost like an animal foot. Okay, so there's plenty more in these photos, and I just want to give you the idea. You can do this too, but my original thesis is that the one we have known as Ronald Reagan is actually born female. And in my view, these are female breasts that have been reduced. Look how they start up here and come down like a balloon blown up. Okay, that's certainly not the way the breasts are for a man. Okay, and there's many, many other indications, not just with Ronald Reagan, but again, all presidents of the United States have been female and currently are female. currently is a female. Use better English for you. So go to the one who's truly in charge of all history, the Lord God Almighty, who sent his Son, the Lord Jesus Christ, who died on the cross for us and rose from the dead, who is truly God, truly man, and we don't need these Greco-Roman type God heroes such as our hoax history has presented in presidents. I'd like to thank you for watching. Hey, on your left is ex-President Richard Nixon, and on your right is the impressionist impersonator Rich Little. Now I am saying that Rich Little literally played the role of Richard Nixon. So when Richard Nixon was on stage, it was actually Rich Little. And Rich Little is good at imitating President Nixon. In fact, it's one of his best, because he actually was President Nixon. The world is a stage, and everything.
Let me pause here in my own video because I will do other videos to show Ed Sullivan plays Richard Nixon. Maybe it's a tripond. A tribond, meaning the same actor is Rich Little, Richard Nixon, and Ed Sullivan. Now I also realize that oftentimes one hoax position can be played by a multitude of actors. So I'm not sure exactly how to conclude this, except I think tribond is the best conclusion. This match is really high with Rich Little. Notice also the first name Richard Nixon, Rich Little. He's a little Richard Nixon. Or Richard Nixon's just a little Rich Little. Anyhow, you can put all three of them together, Ed Sullivan, Richard Nixon, and Rich Little. This video was done at an early stage in my video producing, and much before I made comparisons and discoveries that Ed Sullivan was basically Richard Nixon. So possibly all three are one and the same. Rich Little, Richard Nixon, and Ed Sullivan.
Is hoaxed for you and for me so that everyone will be in the dark and know nothing of what really goes on in life. So Rich Little, the impersonator, impressionist, the one who mimics others, actually was Richard Nixon playing a role in hoax history in the hoax White House for hoax presidents. Thank you for watching. End of video. Hey, breaking story. I thought I recognized Dr. Fauci, and it took me a while, but I found him. Dr. Fauci is played by Mel Brooks. There you have it. An 88% match. Dr. Fauci on your left, Mel Brooks on your right. It's all a show. Oh, I know, people want to believe that they have a fancy title, and that gives them credibility. People want to believe because they're on television and in the news that somehow that makes them credible. But it's all a show. It's a stage. They're actors presenting a script to the world. And because it is witchcraft, people believe it and accept it. So all the nonsense that arises is just a script. They're actors. Mel Brooks plays Dr. Fauci. Breaking news story. I'd like to thank you for watching. End of video. Okay, what's before you is a visual from the movie Das Boot. That movie came out in 1981. It was based on the novel that was written in 1973 by Luther Gunther Buchheim. And Buchheim supposedly was a war correspondent in 1941 on a U-boat, U-96. And this movie that came out in 1981 was to reflect the novel of 1973 by Buchheim. But supposedly Buchheim was a war correspondent, and it is all based on his experiences.
So let's listen in as we hear the bonus features whereby there's a commentary given. And I want you to hear exactly what is said about Buchheim and another book that he published with respect to this movie and the original crew of U-96, supposedly the original crew. Let's listen in.
This is after all.
Look at that beard. I mean,
Eight, 10 months of shooting. You see it pale like what a difference to
the beginning. Yeah.
the beginning.
Actually, I mean, maybe I should mention it now. Buchheim, the author of the book, he published a photo book comparing the crew, our crew, the actors, with the real crew. And you couldn't tell the difference sometimes. We were really looking so alike that it was fantastic. I still have that book, and every now and then I have a look at it. And if you see the real people and you see the actors, they look really similar. There's one guy who looks like the ghost, exactly, and it's fascinating.
Also interesting
with those beards and the way they looked, and it was so close to reality. It was unbelievable.
When the film was released in 1981 in Germany, one of the publicity material what they used was showing the entire crew before and after. Yeah. And that was just that, and that tells you a whole story. Looking the faces when they leave.
Okay, I don't know if you picked it up, but he's talking about the author, Buchheim, and how Buchheim took photos of the original crew of U-96 in 1941 and compared them to the actors in this movie. And according to the commentary you just heard, they look very, very similar. And you might begin to think, wow, that's really something, how the actors sort of took on the persona of the original crew. Well, why don't you reverse it? The actors are acting as the original crew in the photo book. In other words, they do both. They play in this movie, and they also dress up like they really were in U-96, and this really happened. No, it didn't really happen. There weren't U-boats lurking in the Atlantic Ocean waiting to sink freighters, waiting for convoys. There weren't U-boats in the Mediterranean Sea waiting to sink ships. Oh, it is on paper, yes. Oh, yes, it is in propaganda film, yes. Oh, it's in novels written, yes. And it's even in, quote, historical books. But it really never happened, folks. Because it was all a hoax. It didn't happen, folks. Because it was all a hoax. So it's hoax history, and we have all been suckered to believe it. Because we've watched a lot of movies like Das Boot. We've read a lot of novels like Das Boot that came out in 1973. And even this was so successful that there has been a television miniseries based upon the novel and based upon the movie. So it just goes on and on and on in hoax history. War is a hoax. But you want to believe it. I wanted to believe it. I read many books, watched many movies. In fact, I was quite fascinated with these Unterseeboten, the undersea boats of Germany, or the U-boats. They're a hoax too, just like all of it. So you've got a choice. Do you want to stay with the novels? Do you want to stay with the hoax system? Or would you like to get out of it and say, you know what? We've been hoaxed. So you can get out of it by asking the Lord Jesus Christ to come into your life and be the way, the truth, and the life, to provide to you the mind of Christ, and to give to you the Spirit of truth, the Holy Spirit. If you want more information on war hoaxing, you can go to my other channel, War Backwards is Raw. You can also see the one who has been saying this for years and years, Dave J. Yes, just type in Dave and then the letter J. Dave Johnson is the one who really allowed me to see all this. So I'm going to invite you to go to those two channels. There are other channels whereby you can pick up on war hoaxing. I don't have them in front of me right at the moment, or their names. But I want to tell you, there's others out there also who are trying to get this message out. So I'd like to thank you for watching. End of video. Hey, I was watching the vice presidential debates, and my eyes got glued onto the one that we call Joe Biden. And as I watched Joe Biden, I recognized mannerisms. I recognized the way he moved his face, the way he blinked his eyes, his facial gesture with a semi-smile, and so forth. And I said, by gollies, I think that's Johnny Carson. Well, I'm not always certain of myself, so I decided to do some homework. And sure enough, here we have on the left-hand side, this is a picture of Biden, almost contemporary, and this is a picture of Carson, younger. Now look at the pattern of the chin and the nose, okay? The patterns are identical, all right? And considering there's quite an age differential here, I came up with a 90% match on Biden and Johnny Carson. You say Johnny Carson is dead. No, they fake this all the time, and sometimes they extend their ages and make them older than what they actually are so they can get more service out of them. So, breaking news, Johnny Carson plays Joe Biden. Now here's some other pictures that will show you some matches too in terms of their other, some other pictures. With Biden on the left, Carson on the right, 66%. The other one was 90%. 69%, Biden on the left, Carson on the right. Now what's even a little more interesting is an episode came up years ago whereby Johnny Carson pokes fun at Biden. And we're going to take a look at that here. So in 1987, Biden was giving speeches, and he was plagiarizing. So in one episode of Johnny Carson will make fun of Joe Biden. So we're going to watch that. Okay, it's just a little short video of the Johnny Carson show, and I believe it's 1987. It would be The Tonight Show, starring Johnny Carson. Now, I'm making commentaries on my older videos because later I will identify Tim Allen as playing Biden. Is it possible for one hoax history position to be played by a multitude of actors? The answer is yes. Now this match comes up pretty significantly high with Johnny Carson and Joe Biden. But the character called Joe Biden can change a little bit each time in the phases of the history of that character. In other words, maybe at one time Carson played Biden, and then a little bit later they passed the role off to Tim Allen. And with latex appliances, prosthetics, different forms of makeup and application of things, any actor can play one of these hoaxers in history. So there's a little bit of a dilemma. If you watch my other videos, my later videos, I will identify Tim Allen, the comedian. But the point is, they're both comedians, Carson and Allen. And the role of the so-called Joe Biden is that of a comedian to hoax the American people with comedy. They all say, oh, he's senile and stuff. No, he's just a comedian. So they laugh at us, not realizing that our so-called leaders are just hoaxers and liars. Anyhow, I'll go on with this video.
Così,
Have you seen the problem he's been having? He went around and made a speech, and apparently he quoted I think it was a British politician, took his speech and kind of paraphrased it as his own, and then pressed that on him. And then he was charged also with taking part of Bobby Kennedy's speeches. And Biden says, not to worry, be sure they stand. He said, you have nothing to fear but fear itself. On the political scene, one of the Democratic candidates is Senator Joseph Biden. Have you seen the problem he's been having? He went around and made a speech, and apparently he quoted I think it was a British politician, took his speech and kind of paraphrased it as his own, and then pressed that on him. And then he was charged also with taking part of Bobby Kennedy's speeches. And Biden says, not to worry, be sure they stand. He said, you have nothing to fear but fear itself.
Okay, so what I want to show you is this picture of Carson and Biden. Now, on my channel, War Backwards is Raw, I developed early in the formation of that channel what I call the split persona. In other words, the TV talk show host Johnny Carson, he actually plays Joe Biden in the political world. He's just an actor. Everything is phony. Everything. Congress, Senate, presidents, everything is phony. They're just actors. There is no real actual government as you understand it. But over and over and over again, people were pulled into the hoax-like political system, and they truly believe that we have some type of a government. It's really, basically, it's gone. Now there you are. We're back to the original one that I showed you. Okay, the 90% match will show you. Carson plays Biden. And trust me, I picked up the mannerisms, and that's how I got it. I didn't even get it this way. I just watched Biden. And I said, my gosh, I know those mannerisms, because I watched Johnny Carson for years. For years I watched Johnny Carson. And the man in that vice presidential debate, all the mannerisms, all the things he did were pretty much identical to the mannerisms of Johnny Carson. Johnny Carson is not dead. Johnny Carson is Joe Biden. You've been hoaxed. You've been fooled. There's one who will never fool you, Jesus Christ, and he's going to come to this earth someday with a true government. And that's the government that will last forever. Don't believe in this phony government stuff. They're just actors, and they fool you, and they keep fooling you. Don't let them fool you anymore. End of video. Hey, this video is going to show you that the one who played the part of Carol Burnett, which was a popular television show for many, many years, will actually reveal to everyone that she, on stage, is a she, but in reality, she is a man. She will admit to this and literally show you the hoax that was played on the American public. How many women sat back and said, oh, I love the Carol Burnett show. I love Carol Burnett. And a lot of them were just women because they thought she was really a funny woman. Well, Carol Burnett is going to reveal to the public the real secret behind this actor. Now try to remember that history is a stage and actors are in front of you. And this is just sort of a demonstration that you can be so fooled so easily, and that a lot of the characters of history were just simply actors playing a role. Okay, let's take you to the Carol Burnett show and then sort of to the backstage and off the air, and Carol is going to get really, really revealing here.
You to know that the same fellow who does all of Cher's clothes, Bob Mackey, does mine. Now I want you to see the kind of work that goes into one of these outfits.
stage. On stage, this actor, who really is a man, portrays a woman very successfully. In fact, probably almost the entire audience that viewed this show was under the impression that Carol Burnett was a woman. So think about it. What about history? What about modern events? Could some of the same dynamics be true? Well, this video was about showing you on stage, off stage. So I hope that you realize that in many, many ways, just like the Carol Burnett show deceived people, we've been deceived in so many other areas. Thank you for watching. This is the end of the video. Okay, I have been trying to bring my channel Who is Who in Hoaxology to you, and try to condense things and bring them a little more up to speed things up. And I'm going to continue this until I get everything done. This video is being made on Memorial Day 2023. Thank you for watching. End of video.